Nightingale in the Rain. The first drops of rain fell as Serena Kana hurried down the narrow alleyway toward the back entrance of Blue Ember Lounge. Her violin case bumped against her hip as she navigated puddles in shoes that had seen better days. Above the door, a single blue light flickered like a distant star in the gathering dusk. Cutting it close to night, Songbird, Jasper, the elderly doorman, winked as he held the door open, his weathered face creased with affection. "Hospital discharge data late," Serena explained, shaking raindrops from her curly hair. New medication routine took forever to sort out. Inside, the lounge hummed with quiet energy. Blue Ember wasn't fancy, just a converted basement with brick walls that trapped the warmth of bodies and candles. But it was authentic. Musicians respected it, and a loyal crowd filled the mismatched chairs each night. The kind of place tourists never found and locals protected like a secret. In the tiny back room that served as both office and dressing area, Dominic, the owner, glanced up from his accounting ledger. His eyes, soft despite his imposing frame, registered concern. "Everything okay with your grandfather?" "I could have moved your set back." Serena shook her head. "Music is the only thing keeping us both sane right now." She unpacked her violin with practiced hands. "Besides, we need the money." 3 years ago, Serena had been on track to finish her music degree at the conservatory when her grandfather's stroke changed everything. With her parents long gone and no siblings, there was only her to care for the man who had raised her. She'd left school, taken whatever gigs she could find, and eventually landed the regular spot at Blue Ember, 6 nights a week, 2 sets per night. On stage, Serena closed her eyes as her fingers found their position on the violin strings. Her voice, when it joined the first notes, carried something that technique alone couldn't explain, a depth that made conversations pause and drinks remain untouched. "She sings like someone who's lived 3 lifetimes," Dominic often told new patrons, and all of them interesting. Tonight, Serena chose songs of longing and distant horizons. Her grandfather had been confused again today, calling her by her mother's name. The doctors used words like progressive and management, rather than recovery. Each note she played carried the weight of hospital corridors and unanswered prayers. At easy the back of the room, partially hidden by shadows, sat a solitary figure. Unlike the other patrons, he wore no expression of enjoyment, no smile of appreciation. Instead, his face remained perfectly still, as if carved from stone. Only his eyes moved, following Serena's every gesture with an intensity that might have unsettled her had she noticed. Vikram Malhotra had not intended to step inside the lounge. The rain had driven him off his usual walking path. The late night, walks that had become his only relief from insomnia, he'd stepped inside merely to escape the downpour, planning to leave once it subsided. But then Serena had begun to sing. Something in her voice reached past his carefully constructed walls built over years of isolation despite his enormous success. For the first time in 3 years, he felt something stir within him. Not happiness, not yet, but perhaps its distant cousin. Recognition. When the set ended, he left before the applause faded, pulling his collar high against the rain that had not stopped. Behind him, Serena counted her tips. Enough for this week's medications, but not enough for the specialist her grandfather needed. Neither knew that the rain had changed both their paths that night, creating an intersection where 2 worlds, never meant to meet, would soon collide. Silent patron for the 3rd consecutive night, the man in the charcoal suit claimed the same corner table. He arrived precisely 7 minutes before Serena's first set, and departed during the final applause, leaving behind an untouched glass of scotch and a generous tip that made Jasper's eyebrows rise. "Your secret admirer's back," Dominic murmured, as Serena tuned her violin backstage. "Still hasn't spoken a word to anyone, just watches you like you're solving the mysteries of the universe with that violin." Serena peeked through the curtain. The stranger sat perfectly still, his features partially obscured by shadows. There was something almost architectural about his posture. Rigid lines softened only by the occasional tap of his finger against the table when she hit certain notes. "Probably just a music critic," she said. though something about his presence made her pulse quicken, not with fear but with the strange sensation of being truly heard. Across town in the penthouse office of Malhotra Innovations, Vikram's executive assistant Prisha stared at the untouched calendar notifications on her tablet. "You've missed the board meeting and rescheduled the Tokyo investors twice," she said, her professional demeanor cracking slightly. "The press is speculating about your absence. People are worried." Vikram gazed out at the skyline his company had helped reshape. At 41, he had accomplished what most couldn't in multiple lifetimes. His technological innovations had revolutionized renewable energy storage, making him billions while reshaping global climate initiatives. Yet for 3 years since Leela's death, he had been operating on autopilot, a ghost moving through the machinery of his empire. "I'll handle Tokyo personally next week," he replied, voice distant. "The board can wait." "And tonight's charity gala? The children's hospital wing we funded opens officially. Everyone's expecting a speech." Vikram's thoughts drifted to the hidden lounge and the singer whose voice had somehow penetrated the numbness he'd wrapped around himself like armor. "Send my regrets. Make a larger donation to compensate." Later that evening, as rain once again tapped against Blue Ember's windows, Serena's performance took an unexpected turn. Halfway through her set, her phone vibrated with the hospital's number. Stepping off stage with a hurried apology, she took the call in the back room, her face paling with each word. When she returned, the audience noticed the change immediately. Her fingers trembled slightly on the violin strings and her usually perfect pitch wavered. Still she continued, pouring fresh anguish into each note. In his corner, Vikram felt the shift like a physical sensation. The music had transformed from beautiful to devastating, raw emotion made audible. Without thinking, he leaned forward, emerging partially from the shadows. After her set, Serena rushed to gather her things, tears threatening. "My grandfather's had another stroke," she explained to Dominic. "I need to get to the hospital, but my car wouldn't start this morning and—" "Take mine," Dominic offered, reaching for his keys. "Allow me." The voice, deep and accented with traces of British boarding schools layered over Indian roots, came from behind them. The stranger from the corner table stood in the doorway, car keys already in hand. "My driver can take you anywhere. You need to go, no questions asked. He's parked outside." Serena hesitated, studying him properly for the first time. His face held the kind of weariness that expensive suits couldn't disguise. The look of someone who had lost something irreplaceable. "Why would you help me? You don't even know me." The ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Your music. It speaks of things most people spend their lives trying to forget. I'd like to return the favor if you'll allow it." Outside, a sleek black car waited, its driver standing attentively beside it. The kind of car that belonged in a different world than Serena's apartment above the laundromat. "I'm Vikram," he said simply, holding the car door open. "Serena," she replied, making her decision. "And I need to get to Mercy General Hospital. Fast." As the car slipped into the rainy night, neither spoke. But something had shifted, a first tentative bridge between worlds built on the foundation of music and shared understanding of pain. At the hospital, when Vikram quietly instructed his driver to wait, Serena glanced back with questioning eyes. "Wife died in a place just like this," he said, answering her unasked question. "I haven't set foot in a hospital since, but I'll be here when you come out, however long it takes." The automatic doors closed behind her, leaving Vikram alone with memories he'd been running from for 3 years, and the strange new feeling that perhaps he'd been running in the wrong direction all along. Harmonies and heartstrings. Dawn broke. Over the hospital parking lot, painting the sky in watercolor hues that went unnoticed by the woman slumped in the uncomfortable waiting room chair. Serena jerked awake at the touch on her shoulder, momentarily disoriented until Vikram's face came into focus. "You're still here," she murmured, surprised despite his promise. He offered her a paper cup of chai that smelled of cardamom and ginger. "I said I would be." The simple truth in those words struck her. In her experience, people's promises often dissolved when inconvenient. "They're keeping him for observation," she explained, accepting the tea gratefully. "The neurologist won't be in until afternoon." Vikram nodded, glancing at his watch. a subtle gesture that reminded Serena that this stranger surely had somewhere else to be. The watch alone probably cost more than 6 months of her rent. "I should let you go," she said, straightening her rumpled clothes. "Thank you for the ride and for waiting." "Actually," Vikram said, hesitation softening his usually confident demeanor, "I thought you might join me for breakfast. You should eat something before the long day ahead." "Actually," Vikram said, hesitation softening his usually confident demeanor, "I thought you might join me for breakfast. You should eat something before the long day ahead." The small cafe across from the hospital became an unexpected sanctuary. Over plates of masala eggs and toast, conversation flowed more easily than either expected. Serena spoke of her grandfather, Navin, a professor of literature who had raised her after her parents died in a car accident when she was 8. How he had encouraged her music, working extra jobs to pay for lessons. He used to say that the violin was just a tool, she recalled, a genuine smile breaking through her exhaustion. That the real instrument was the space between heartbeats. Vikram found himself sharing snippets of his own life, carefully edited versions that omitted the magnitude of his wealth and position. He spoke of growing up between Mumbai and London, of his love for quantum physics that had eventually led to his work in energy technologies. He didn't mention the company that bore his name or the innovations that had changed an industry. And he certainly didn't speak of Leela, though her absence shaped every word he chose. "Do you play any instruments?" Serena asked. "Piano, though I haven't touched one in years," Vikram admitted. "My mother insisted. She believed music built better neural pathways for mathematics." Serena laughed. "And did it work?" "I suppose it did," he acknowledged with unexpected warmth. "Though I suspect she just wanted an excuse to fill our home with music." When Serena returned to the hospital, Vikram left reluctantly, extracting a promise that she would call the number he provided if she needed anything at all. That evening, for the first time in 3 years, Blue Ember's patrons noticed the absence of their regular performer. Dominic explained about her grandfather, promising she'd return when circumstances allowed. In the back corner, Vikram's table remained empty. 3 days later, Serena stood in the doorway of her grandfather's hospital room, watching as he slept. The specialist, mysteriously available despite a 6-month waiting list, had adjusted his medication regimen, resulting in noticeable improvements. When the hospital administrator had mentioned that all expenses had been covered anonymously, Serena had immediately suspected Vikram, though she had no way to confirm it. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "The stage misses you, but more importantly, how is your grandfather?" The simple inquiry brought unexpected tears to her eyes. How long had it been since someone had asked about her, not just what she could provide them? Navin's eyes fluttered open, finding her in the doorway. "Why the long face, Betty? I'm not dead yet." His voice was weaker than before, but carried the familiar dry humor. "Just thinking," she replied, taking her usual seat beside him. "About that mysterious benefactor of yours?" When she looked surprised, he chuckled. "The nurses gossip. Handsome, man in expensive suits asking about my condition. Who is he?" "Just someone who likes my music," she deflected. Navin's eyes, still sharp despite his frail body, studied her. "Music has always been your bridge, Serena. It's how you connect when words fail you. Perhaps it's time to see what lies on the other side of that bridge." That night, after ensuring her grandfather was settled, Serena returned to Blue Ember for the first time in days. The familiar scents of sandalwood incense and spilled beer welcomed her as she slipped through the back entrance. Without her violin or performance clothes, she felt strangely vulnerable. She spotted him immediately, Vikram in his usual corner staring at the empty stage with such profound loneliness that something inside her chest tightened. She made her way through the crowded tables until she stood before him. "The stage might miss me," she said quietly, echoing his text, "but I think perhaps you did too." The smile that transformed his face in that moment revealed a glimpse of who Vikram might have been before grief rewrote him. someone capable of brightness, of joy. "Would you join me?" he asked, gesturing to the empty chair across from him. As Serena sat down, a new musician took the stage, a saxophonist whose mournful notes filled the room. But for the first time, neither Serena nor Vikram was fully listening to the music. They were too busy discovering the unexpected melody emerging between them. Dissonance. Over the next 3 weeks, a delicate rhythm established itself between them. Serena returned to performing at Blue Ember while caring for her recovering grandfather. Vikram attended her performances religiously, sometimes bringing rare vinyl records or books of poetry that reminded him of her music. Afterward, they would talk for hours about philosophy, art, and the peculiar ways grief reshapes a person's internal landscape. What remained unspoken was as significant as what was shared. Vikram never invited her to his home or offices. Serena never asked about his work beyond vague references to energy solutions. Both sensed that naming the disparities between their worlds might shatter the fragile connection they'd formed. On a crisp autumn evening, Vikram arrived at Blue Ember with an unexpected proposition. "There's a small performance space in the botanical gardens," he said, his usual reserve softened by enthusiasm. "They're hosting a midnight concert series, just musicians playing among the night-blooming flowers. Would you consider joining me?" The gardens transformed at night were otherworldly, pathways illuminated by lanterns, exotic blossoms unfurling in the darkness, releasing their perfume into the cool air. As they wandered among glass houses filled with orchids, Serena felt as though they'd stepped into some parallel reality where only beauty existed. "It's like something from a dream," she whispered, reaching out to touch a moonflower as it opened. Vikram watched her with an expression that had become increasingly familiar. Wonder mingled with trepidation, as if he couldn't quite believe she was real. "I used to come here often before everything changed." "What happened?" Serena asked gently, the question she'd been carefully avoiding for weeks. Vikram's face closed like a door. "Another time, perhaps." The string quartet played Debussy beneath a canopy of stars, the music mingling with the sounds of night insects and distant fountains. Without conscious thought, Serena found herself leaning against Vikram's shoulder, his arm tentatively encircling her. "You make me remember what it was like," he murmured into her hair. "To feel something other than absence." Later, as his driver took them back toward the city, Serena's phone buzzed insistently. Dominic's panicked voice greeted her. "There's a problem at the lounge. Health inspectors showed up unannounced, claiming anonymous complaints. They're threatening to shut us down over code violations we can't possibly afford to fix." "That's impossible," Serena protested. "Blue Ember's been there for 20 years without issues." "Well, something's changed. They're talking about 50,000 in renovations or permanent closure." Vikram, overhearing her side of the conversation, touched her arm questioningly. "Is everything all right?" Before she could respond, the car slowed to a stop at a red light. Through the window, Serena saw a massive digital billboard illuminating the night, an advertisement for Malhotra Innovations' latest sustainable energy initiative. And there, unmistakable despite the stylized photography, was Vikram's face, captioned, "Visionary CEO Vikram Malhotra announces billion-dollar urban renewal project." The light changed to green, but something fundamental had shifted in the car's atmosphere. "You're that Malhotra," Serena said quietly, pieces falling into place with sickening clarity. "The one buying up properties all over the arts district for redevelopment." Vikram's expression tightened. "My company has investments in urban renewal, yes, but the renewal that's forcing out small businesses like Blue Ember? That's displacing entire communities?" Her voice rose despite her efforts to control it. "Is that why the inspectors suddenly appeared? Part of your strategy to force Dominic to sell?" "Serena, I had nothing to do with any inspectors. I didn't even know the lounge was in one of our development zones until this moment." The car pulled up outside Blue Ember, where a small crowd had gathered, watching health officials place closure notices on the door. Dominic stood helplessly by, decades of work crumbling before his eyes. I need to go, Serena said, reaching for the door handle. Let me help, Vikram offered, his voice tight with urgency. I can make calls, sort this out immediately. She turned. To him, eyes bright with unshed tears. With what? Your money? Your influence? Is that what these past weeks have been about? Some billionaire's guilt project? Helping the struggling musician and her sick grandfather while your company destroys their livelihood? That's not fair, Vikram said quietly. What's between us has nothing to do with my business. Except it does, Serena countered. You kept your real life hidden from me. Let me believe you were just what? Someone you could actually care about? The pain in his voice was raw, unfiltered. Not the monster the press makes me out to be? Serena stepped out of the car, the night air sharp in her lungs. I don't know who you are anymore, and I'm not sure you do either. She closed the door before he could respond, hurrying toward the gathering crowd without looking back. Inside the car, Vikram watched her go, then reached for his phone. Within minutes, he was issuing rapid-fire directives to his legal team, his voice regaining the commanding edge of the CEO, rather than the vulnerable man who had begun to rediscover himself through Serena's music. Across town in his hospital room, Navin Khanna watched the late news with growing concern as the reporter discussed Malhotra Innovations' controversial redevelopment plans. The camera panned to show protesters outside corporate headquarters, then cut to archive footage of Vikram at a press conference. Oh, Serena, the old man sighed, recognizing the face of his granddaughter's mysterious friend. Always the complicated ones. In her small apartment that night, Serena placed her violin back in its case, unable to find solace in the music that had always been her refuge. For the first time in years, the notes refused to come. The final verse morning light filtered through Serena's apartment windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. She hadn't slept, instead spending hours researching Vikram Malhotra, the real Vikram, not the quiet man who listened to her music with closed eyes. Headlines chronicled his meteoric rise. Malhotra's quantum battery revolution, tech wunderkind, turns philanthropist, the reclusive genius behind green energy's future. But interspersed were more troubling stories. Malhotra Innovations accused of predatory development. Protesters claim Malhotra's urban renewal displaces vulnerable communities. And then there were the personal tragedies. Tech mogul's wife dies in tragic accident. Malhotra withdraws from public life following personal loss. The articles referenced a car crash 3 years ago. Leela Malhotra, philanthropist and renowned pediatric surgeon, killed instantly when her vehicle hydroplaned during a storm. The last piece Serena read was dated just yesterday. Blue Ember. Lounge granted unexpected reprieve, mysterious benefactor covers renovation costs. Her phone buzzed with a text from Dominic. You won't believe this. All code violations resolved overnight. Someone paid for everything. New wiring, sprinkler system, structural repairs. We're clear to reopen tonight. No idea who or why, but Serena knew. The question was what it meant. Genuine amends or just another problem solved with money? Across the city, Vikram stood in his penthouse office, staring at the architectural renderings spread across his desk. The planned development that would transform 12 city blocks, including Blue Ember's neighborhood. Prisha entered without knocking, her expression troubled. The board is waiting. They're concerned about the rumors you're considering major changes to the East Quarter project. Vikram nodded absently. Tell them I'll be there shortly. After she left, he picked up his personal phone, the one whose only contacts were his driver, his housekeeper, and now, Serena. No messages. The board meeting was contentious from the start. These last-minute changes are financially irresponsible, argued Rajan, the chief financial officer. We've already invested millions in acquiring those properties. And what about the shareholders? Added Amara, head of investor relations. They're expecting returns based on the original plan. Vikram remained standing, uncharacteristically animated. The original plan fails to preserve the cultural fabric that makes that neighborhood valuable in the first place. We're not just building structures, we're shaping communities. This sudden concern for cultural fabric wouldn't have anything to do with that singer, would it? Rajan's tone made the question an accusation. Vikram's expression hardened. My personal life is irrelevant to this discussion. What's relevant is that I founded this company to create sustainable solutions, not just environmentally sustainable, but humanly sustainable. Somewhere along the way, we lost sight of that mission. He pulled up new renderings on the wall screen, modified designs that incorporated existing structures, including Blue Ember, into the development rather than raising them. This isn't charity, he continued. It's smart business. Authenticity has value. Soul has value. We can honor what already exists while building something new alongside it. The debate continued for hours, but in the end, Vikram's vision, and his controlling interest in the company, prevailed. That evening, Navin Khanna insisted on leaving the hospital for a few hours. I'm well enough to sit in a chair and listen to my granddaughter perform, he declared to the reluctant doctor. Music is better medicine than anything you're giving me. With his nurse's help, he made the journey to Blue Ember, arriving just as Serena was setting up on stage. The lounge hummed with excited energy. Regulars who had feared losing their gathering place now celebrating its unexpected salvation. Serena nearly dropped her violin when she spotted her grandfather. "Dada, you shouldn't be out of bed." "Nonsense," he replied, settling into a chair near the stage. Some things are important enough to witness in person. As she prepared to begin her set, the door opened, admitting a gust of autumn air and a familiar figure. Vikram stood hesitantly at the entrance, more casually dressed than she'd ever seen him in jeans and a simple button-down shirt. Their eyes met across the room. For a long moment, neither moved. It was Navin who broke the stalemate, raising a hand to beckon Vikram over. Reluctantly, he approached, offering a respectful greeting to the older man. "So you're the one who's been turning my granddaughter's life upside down," Navin said bluntly. "It seems I have that effect on people," Vikram admitted. Navin studied, him with the penetrating gaze of a lifelong educator. "When my wife was dying, I made a terrible mistake. I thought I could protect myself from more pain by withdrawing from her. I missed precious final moments because I was afraid." He glanced meaningfully at Serena. "Don't let fear of loss prevent you from experiencing what's right in front of you." On stage, Serena began to play, not her planned set, but something new, something raw and unfinished. The melody carried questions, anger, confusion. But underneath ran a counterpoint of something deeper, more enduring. When the song ended, the audience remained silent for several heartbeats before erupting in applause. Without acknowledging them, Serena stepped off the stage and approached Vikram. "We need to talk," she said simply. "Not here." They walked in silence to a small park a few blocks away, empty at this hour except for distant dog walkers and the occasional jogger. "I saw what you did for Blue Ember," she began, "and I saw the news about the changes to your development plans." Vikram sat on a bench, hands clasped between his knees. "It wasn't about you. Or not just about you. It was about remembering why I started this work in the first place, before I let grief turn me into someone I don't recognize." "Who are you then?" "Really?" The question held no accusation now, only genuine curiosity. "I'm still figuring that out," he admitted. "For 3 years I've been a ghost in my own life. Leela, my wife, she was the conscience of our partnership. She kept me grounded, reminded me that innovation without humanity is meaningless." He looked up at Serena. "Your music, it woke something I thought had died with her." Serena sat, beside him, close but not touching. "I'm not her replacement." "No, you're not," he agreed immediately. "You're something entirely new. Someone who made me want to be present again in my own life and in the world." "I'm still angry that you hid so much from me," she said. "Relationships, even friendships, need honesty to survive." "I was afraid," Vikram acknowledged. "Not of your reaction to my wealth, but that you'd see me as the world does, just another ruthless billionaire exploiting others for profit. I wanted to be seen as myself, not my bank account or company. And who is that self? Serena pressed. Vikram considered the question with the seriousness it deserved. Someone who lost his way but is trying to find it again. Someone who wants to build things that matter, in business and in life. He hesitated, then added quietly, someone who fell in love with a musician who plays her whole heart on a second-hand violin. The confession hung in the air between them, neither quite ready to grasp it fully. I don't know if I can trust this, Serena said finally. There's still so much between our worlds, so many complications. Then perhaps we start simpler, Vikram suggested. Not with grand declarations or promises we're not ready to make, but with truth. Complete truth, from this moment forward. Serena nodded slowly. I think I can agree to that. In the spirit of truth, Vikram said, there's something I'd like to show you. Something I haven't shared with anyone in 3 years. They walked to his car where his driver waited patiently. This time, instead of heading toward the city center, they drove to the outskirts, eventually turning down a tree-lined drive leading to a modest house set among gardens. Inside, covered by a cloth, stood a grand piano. Vikram removed the cover, with reverent hands, dust motes swirling in the moonlight streaming through tall windows. This was our home, Leela's and mine, not the penthouse everyone assumes I live in. That's just for show. For business. He sat at the piano, fingers hovering uncertainly over the keys. I haven't played since before she died. Why now? Serena asked softly. Because music was her language too. And because you reminded me that healing doesn't mean forgetting, it means finding new ways to carry what matters. His fingers found the keys hesitantly at first, then with growing confidence. Not a classical piece as she might have expected, but a simple, haunting melody that seemed to speak directly of loss and tentative hope. Without conscious thought, Serena reached for her violin, always with her. She joined his melody, their music intertwining, not erasing the past but creating something new that honored it. Outside the windows, dawn began to break, painting the sky in shades of possibility. They played on, neither speaking, letting the music say what words could not yet fully express, that some journeys begin not with grand gestures but with simple truths. That healing is never a straight line, but a melody with unexpected turns. And that sometimes the most profound connections come when we are brave enough to let our broken places show. In the growing light, two people from different worlds continued their duet, the first notes of a composition still being written, one honest measure at a time.